Hello and welcome to another bite-sized episode of the Do the Work podcast. I know your time is precious, so we keep these short and sharp so you can get the information that you need and go away and implement it into your lifestyle with your health and fitness. Just before we get into the episode, all I would say is if you like this content, if you could please share it with a friend, like it and subscribe so that we can get our message out to change more people's lives. Enjoy the episode. So today we've got something a little bit different for you. I am putting myself, I suppose, with a lack of preparation, a little bit out of my comfort zone. I've got a list of 10 questions here, which Chat GBT has just sort of spit out at me as the top 10 questions for essentially losing weight or weight loss. So I've literally just seen them now. We're going to run through them. I'm going to give you an honest snapshot answer to the best of my ability to these questions. So without further ado, let's get into them. There are 10. And first question is, what is the best diet for weight loss? My immediate response to this is that obviously it's the diet that works for you and fits around your lifestyle, your likes, your dislikes, your dietary requirements and all of that. The weight loss part of it, obviously whatever sort of system method that you use, it has to be within a calorie deficit. So, whether you choose a vegan diet, an intermittent fasting diet, a keto diet, a carnivore diet, whatever diet it is, it will only work for weight loss if you are within a calorie deficit, which ultimately means you are burning more calories than you are taking in. So again, just to summarize that, the best diet for weight loss is the one that works for you and one in which that creates a calorie deficit. All right, let's have a look at the next one. So we've got, how much weight can I lose in a month? All right, so this is very dependent on the individual. Like a lot of questions in fitness, or most questions in fitness, the answer is it depends, but I'll try to give you a little bit more clarity on that. Now, I've found that males and females lose at different rates. Obviously, there are a lot of nuances within that as well, but to give you a rough idea, I'm very, very happy if a female is losing at the rate of £1 a week. So if we say that that's 4 to 5 pounds basically per month for a female would be amazing progress. And then males typically lose at a slightly quicker rate. So somewhere between 1 to 2 pounds per week for a male is amazing progress. So again, we'd be looking at 4 to 5 to 8 pounds basically per month there. So, you're looking at about half a stone essentially for a male would be amazing progress within a month. But again, to emphasize, everyone's different. How much you can exercise, how much or how hard you're willing to diet in the form of calories, how much movement you're doing overall in terms of steps. Those numbers there I've given you are kind of averages of my top performing clients that I've worked with previously. Okay, so this is kind of linked, right? The next question. So we've got, how can I lose weight fast? Now, if I had this person in front of me now, I'd want to know the answer to why they want to lose weight fast. And I suppose everyone's perception of what fast is different. I think the most important thing to remember with this is that as much as you might want to lose weight fast, it's important that you're able to learn the skills that allow you to keep that weight off as well. But let's presume that someone's got, a holiday coming up in 6 weeks or something like that. So with this, what I would be doing is I'd be making sure I'd ramp my activity up really high. I would probably focus a lot more on cardio and steps and do as much of that as I could alongside making some, if I've got to lose weight fast for a short period of time, I'm going to be making some fairly drastic cuts into my calorie intake. So I'm probably going to be creating certainly more than a 500 calorie deficit per day, so that I can essentially maximize the fat loss that I'm aiming for in a short space of time. But again, this really depends on how long we've got and how aggressive we kind of want to go. But main things to focus on are obviously making sure that we reduce the calories down more than what we would normally for a long-term sustainable approach, and increase the levels of cardio and steps fairly substantially. And I'd focus on that more than weight training to get that short-term result. All right, what are the best exercises for weight loss? There are no exercises that are necessarily best for weight loss. Again, we create weight loss by creating a calorie deficit, and fundamentally that's achieved by what's going in our mouth in terms of food and drink, if there's calories in what you're drinking as well. So the best exercise really is not an exercise, and it's figuring that out. However, you can impact how many calories you're expending by your activity. And the easiest way to monitor that is by looking at, first of all, step count. So how many steps that you're doing. So I would say probably the answer to your question, the best exercise that you can do is move more, walk more, and do more cardio as well. But before adding cardio in, I'd be looking at how many steps you're doing, because most people, new clients, probably come in, maybe they're doing 2, 3, 4,000 steps in a sedentary job. If you can manage to double that, then you're expending a lot more calories than you were doing previously. So yeah, my answer to that would be do more steps. How can I lose belly fat specifically? The long and short of it is that you can't. Unfortunately, you can't spot reduce body fat. So you doing a sit-up or a plank or a leg raise or something like that isn't going to necessarily mean that you're going to lose weight from that area. Body fat, muscle are two completely different things. When we weight train, we essentially break down muscle and look to grow muscle, which therefore creates the muscle being present. And then when we reduce body fat, we can then see that muscle better than what we could when the body fat was on top of it, essentially, which creates what people see as muscle tone. But no exercise that we can do can necessarily target that body fat specifically. However, we should always be training all the muscles or most of the major muscles in the body, so that as we're losing the fat, we're developing muscle, and that's going to help us essentially look better. Okay, what have we got next? So, why am I not losing weight despite eating healthy and exercising? Again, easy answer to that is that you are not in a calorie deficit. You might be eating healthier in that you're eating healthier, in inverted commas, foods, and you're starting to exercise, but it might be that you're eating healthier foods that are quite high in calories, and maybe even due to exercising, you might be creating a bit more hunger, which is very common. Therefore, you're actually finding that you're eating more than what you did before, which is negating the energy that you're expending. Therefore, you're not losing weight. So what we'd need to do there is have a little look into what it is that you're eating, and maybe reduce portion sizes, or maybe make some slightly different choices with some of the maybe higher calorie foods that are within your diet. Okay, we're getting through them now. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 left to go. So what are some effective weight loss tips? Okay, this one's fairly generic, but what I would say is priority number 1 would be to be as consistent as you possibly can. So whatever you're putting into place, be that more steps, going to the gym, making some changes with your food, make sure that you're consistent with it for an extended period of time. And that's not a few days, that's not Monday to Friday, that's for a period of a few weeks or a month. And then see if that's working before you make any changes. That's the biggest tip that I could give you. But in terms of tips for the activities needed to encourage weight loss, for example, going to the gym more, doing more steps, etc., I would say initially make it as easy as possible. So if you're setting yourself the target of going to the gym 5 times, that's a bad idea. Maybe set yourself the target of just going once per week to begin with, tick that off, reap the benefits of feeling good, and then build on it so that you can create that feeling of success rather than probably not achieving the 5 per week and then feeling like a failure. And that's the same with your step count. Instead of trying to go from 2,000 steps per day to 10,000, why not try and get to 5,000 first? And even better than that, why not set a target over the course of the week so that if you do have a day where you're chained to your desk, so to speak, you can make up for it on a different day, and by the end of the week you're still feeling successful. How many calories should I eat to lose weight? So this is totally dependent upon the individual and how active you are. So it's very difficult to give a definitive number. If we had a lady who was 5'10", and 100 kilos and, very active, trains 4 times a week, does 10,000 steps, that's going to be very different to a lady who is 60 kilos, 5'2", and currently doing no exercise, for example. So it really depends on the individual, but this references back to what I was saying before, in that the most important thing that you do is that you pick a number, you pick a frequency of training, you pick a number of steps, and you stick to it for a period of time. And then you monitor variables like your weight, like circumference measurements, potentially photos, but that's normally a longer term measure. And you see if it's working. But you're doing that for a minimum period of 2 weeks before making any changes. And when you do make changes, don't change everything at once. Just change one thing, be that less calories or more steps or more cardio, just one thing at a time. And then you can just basically see what works within that. Okay. So it's a very difficult question to answer. Just basically start with something and test it. What I would say is most people think that they need to eat less calories than what they do. They're just very bad at tracking. So another tip would be make sure that you're super accurate with your tracking of your calories. Use apps like MyFitnessPal. I use one called Yazio, which is pretty good as well. So that you can get an education to make sure that you know that you're actually sticking to the calories that you've set as well. Because often clients come to me and they tell me they're on 1,300 calories and they're not losing weight. But the reality is that they're not on 1,300 calories because they're just not sticking to it or they're very bad at tracking. Okay, 2 left. Is it safe to lose weight quickly? Again, everyone has a different concept of what quick is, all right? What I would say is I would prefer my clients to lose at a steady rate, because if they're losing at a steady rate, I know that they're doing things that are sustainable long term rather than this kind of like quick fix mentality where we're going really aggressive for a short space of time and then we're going to fall back into the old habits before. So there's probably not going to be any kind of like physical negative connotations to losing weight quickly, other than maybe if you're losing a lot of weight, you're maybe going to have a lot of loose skin, you might lose a little bit of muscle mass. So there are some things to consider there, but I think there's also the psychological challenges that come with that as well, with the on-off mentality, and also just struggling to essentially create a lifestyle that's going to keep the results there long term. So I suppose the direct answer is it safe? It's probably safe, but it's probably not recommended. All right, final question. What are the best weight loss supplements? Well, personally, I don't recommend any supplements for direct weight loss. And again, going back to what I've just said there, what we need to create in order to achieve weight loss is a calorie deficit. And instead of looking at, sometimes people avoid the work and they want to find the easy route because life's like that now, right? We've got Amazon next day Prime delivery. We've got Just Eat that brings a takeaway to your door. We want the easy option. We want the easy route. But what we don't realize is this kind of approach really is the long way around. Actually, the quicker way to get you to where you want to be is taking a slow and steady approach, because you will actually make progress rather than going up, down, up, down, up, down on the scales. So for me, I just focus in not on the supplements, but on the things that you need to do to achieve the result and sustain the result and keep it off long term. And then down the line, you may consider supplements, but I usually wouldn't recommend any supplements that are kind of weight loss based. All right, so there's the top 10 questions that Chat GBT has just told me that you're all kind of asking. Hopefully that was useful. I've actually got a list of 10 more that we're going to be doing on another episode. As ever, if you've got any questions, feel free to reach out. I'd love to help. Thanks for tuning in for today's episode. I hope you found it useful. And if you did, you've got the power to share this message as well. So if you have a friend who might find this content useful, please share it with them. And we'll see you on the next episode.